It's Two on the Aisle with me, Charles Gross, and Leslie Hoban Blake. Tonight, reviews of Dames at Sea, Trip of Love, Ripcord, and Fool for Love. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Two on the Aisle. And good evening, Leslie.
Good evening, Charlie. How are you tonight?
I'm good. Now, you attended a very important event this week.
Did I ever? We celebrate, we being the drama desk, celebrated.
Of which we are both members.
Of which we are both members.
And Leslie's a vice president.
But I won't be anymore, and that's part of what, be quiet, telephone, that's part of what's going on. We are celebrating our 60th anniversary as an award-giving organization, but our 65th anniversary as an organization. 65 years ago, the first drama desk began. And the drama desk, of course, means when newspapers actually had a drama desk where the critics wrote at that desk. So we were very excited about doing this. We had a number of wonderful stars come to visit us. It was just a wonderful evening at Sardi's. And the big thing about it for me is that I have been I decided to step down. I've been vice president long enough for somebody to say, here comes Eleanor Roosevelt. And as much as I loved Eleanor Roosevelt, I thought, you know.
Actually wasn't vice president.
No, but someone was saying, and I took it as a compliment because I think Eleanor Roosevelt was one of the best women in our history. Okay. And I just decided that it was time, I think, to move. But I wasn't really ready to leave the organization, and the board. And our lovely president decided to make me historian. Ooh. I am the first official historian of the drama desk, which means I keep the repository. I'm supposed to know everything, and it's a big responsibility. But I loved it. And last night was just a wonderful event, and I'm over the moon.
All right. Well. Here is to another 65 years.
Yes, right. But I will not be there.
And let's get down to why we're on the drama desk, and that is to review plays.
Right.
And here is Dames at Sea. Now, this play opened not quite 50 years ago off-Broadway, but this production marks the show's Broadway debut. Now, how to describe Dames at Sea? Well, if Busby Berkeley directed an episode of the Carol Burnett Show, this would be the result.
I see.
Dames at Sea is a kind of, it's also been described as Busby Berkeley on a budget. It's basically...
on a bus budget,
on a
yes.
Budget,
bus
yes.
and truck tour budget, yes.
It's been described, it's a small show. It has 4 cast members, an original score.
Well, it has 5 cast members.
5 characters.
Five
Five cast members, excuse me. 5 cast members, and it is basically a tribute to movies like 42nd Street or the Gold Digger series, etc. So here is the plot. There is a director named Hennessy, is down on his luck. He's desperately directing a new Broadway show, and he has starring the great Mona Kent, big star. Off the bus from some small town USA comes Ruby, as in Keeler. Except no one here has a last name except Mona Kent. And she wants to be in a show in the worst way. And of course she gets in. But since this show took place in the 60s, it also foresaw the 70s, because at the end of the first act, the theater is knocked down. And they end up having to do the show on a battleship. And of course, Mona can't go on, so Ruby has to save the show, and everybody then gets the guy, and everybody lives happily ever after. And I had such a wonderful time at this show.
This is the musical that Busby Berkeley never made, and that's the whole idea. And it takes a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and if you know the whole series, if you're a TCM fan, as both you and I are, then we know all the movies that these are based on, and they even have playbills from the real movies in the poster cards from the real movies in the lobby, and it's fun. It made a star out of Bernadette Peters, but it's not going to make a star out of any of these kids, and that is what bothers me. There's nobody who shines in this. They're all adequate. And very nice, and I feel like I'm kicking a puppy by saying that they're not fantastic.
Well, I actually like one of the older stars, Leslie Margarita, as Mona, the aging star. She's kind of a combination of, let's see, Joan Crawford, Norma Desmond, and Carmen Miranda.
If you say so.
I do, and I think she steals the show very often.
But not for me. For me, she was like trying very hard in a summer stock production. And I know one of the producers on the show, and it makes me really sad to say that it wasn't, brilliant. It's not doing that well. I hope it continues to run. I hope it picks up an audience. It's not a Broadway show, and that's and it never was on Broadway. This is its Broadway
yes,
debut,
I said that.
even though it's a revival. No, but the point is that it shouldn't be on Broadway. There are shows that don't belong on Broadway. It's not big enough. If people are going to spend the money for a Broadway show, they deserve to get a Broadway show. And what they're getting here is a show that...
And yet there are many Broadway shows that have small casts.
I'm not talking about a small cast. It's a small show. It's not a big show.
That's why it's at the smallest theater on Broadway.
Okay, fine.
Which used to be called The Little until they changed
You know,
it to
I know
Helen
you
Hayes.
really liked it,
Why?
Charlie.
Because Helen Hayes Theater was knocked down, just like the theater in this show.
I know you really liked it, Charlie.
did.
And I wasn't blown away by it. I want it to be. I've never seen it before. So for me, it was the first time. And there's so much rich material there. It just isn't big enough.
Okay. Well, we have a few scenes from
We
the
do.
show.
Okay.
So let's take a look at. Let's see.
Just wait till that rain goes to follow the rainbows. Get out of that wet, muddy clay. You'll find out that living's a thing of good cheer. Good times are here to stay. When doubts of tomorrow bring worry and sorrow that haunt you when you hit the hay. Imagine a pixie who says in your ear, every day in every way we're getting better and better. Right, good times are here to stay.
Have you seen the headlines, the crowds and the bread lines? Your pals taking big cuts in pay.
Stop acting the mourner. Get out of that corner and smile the American way.
Hooray!
When you hear the thunder, don't cry, no wonder. It's Jupiter having his day. Just holler up to him and yell in his ear.
Kick out the glooms today.
That's right. Good times.
From now on,
are here.
good times are here to
to stay.
Good times are here to stay.
This is what I love about this show. The singing, the tap dancing. The advantage of having such a small show is you know when they're tapping. You don't think, are they dubbing that in?
I never thought they're dubbing it in if they're on Broadway.
You know, on other shows, you can't tell, but you can see what they're doing, and they're wonderful dancers. I really liked.
You saw 42nd Street,
Joan as
right?
Laura Dobbs.
You
Yes.
saw 42nd Street, right?
Yes, I
The
did.
one that was, okay. So how can you possibly say that you thought those were dubbed in, Charlie? Those were fantastic dancers who were dancing.
They were. They were.
You see, that's the thing. 42nd Street was a Broadway show. And that's, once if you've seen that, then it's very hard to come back and see this.
You know what? I've
It's a
seen
little
42nd
stand-up.
Street twice. I've seen this show. I think again, I agree to an extent that people might not want to, but I'm saying I think it's worth seeing.
It's
and
sweet.
It should be seen. And I took my wife to the show, and she was so angry at me because I dragged her out of her office. She's a doctor. She had all this work she had to get back to, and she was, why am I here?
Well, Charlie, but what does that got to do with...
Well, because at the end of the show, there was a smile on her face.
Terrific. That's all you
Yes.
get out of this, though, is a smile. This is not a standing ovation kind of show. This is a small show. If they put it downtown, if they put it at the Union Square Theater, which is about to lose 39 steps, it might have really had a chance to really run. It started in Judson Memorial Basement or someplace like that. It's a small show. And I think
There
you're
are
missing my
there are
point.
a lot of small shows that
Okay.
started off Broadway.
Fine.
Grease.
Okay. Grease was not a small show. How many people in the cast?
All right, more than this, but it was still a very sparsely done show
Okay.
initially.
All right. You know what? Charlie, you liked it, and I was
liked
not
it.
blown away by it. That's
I
all.
had a lot of fun. Just the cast: Leslie Margarita as the aging star, John Bolton as both the director and later the ship's captain, Mari Davy as Joan, the kind of the sidekick.
The Ginger Rogers character.
Yes, although I think someone also said Joan Blondell. Or?
Joan Blundell. Well,
Yeah.
combination of the
I would have
two.
thought Ginger.
But Ginger
I would have
is
thought Ginger
sweeter.
Rogers too.
Ginger is sweeter. Joan was a little tougher.
I liked Eloise Kropp as Ruby, but I thought she was not enough waif-like. You know, I expect her to be like this. You know,
But you don't have a right to
innocent.
expect that. You see, you have to take what they give you, and they were giving you here. I thought she looked like Sonia Haney. I thought that's who she was. I'd like to
ice
write a
skater.
movie for her. You know.
Okay,
I mean,
well, she didn't ice skate in this show, but she does tap dance pretty nicely. Carrie Tedder as Dick, as in Powwow.
and the director.
And Danny Gardner, that's Joe Bolton. We mentioned him a little earlier. Danny Gardner. The one thing I will point out is that since this production is in the 21st century, they have a number called Singapore Sue, and normally Singapore Sue is supposed to be Asian, but since we're being politically correct, she dresses in Asian clothes because it takes place in Asia, but obviously she's Caucasian and no accent.
Yes,
so.
it was awkward to see Ruby Keeler play that role opposite Jimmy Cagney in whichever one of the Gold Diggers that was.
I know which one you're talking about.
Shanghai Lil was the number.
Yes, which...
Looking for my Shanghai Lil.
Right,
yes.
right. James Cagney
and she had little squinty eyes.
Is the director who's
and who
drawn
directed
into the number
and who
at the last
directed this show?
Who directed this show? Well, it wasn't Busby Berkeley. I can tell you that. Randy Skinner. And I just had so much fun with this show. I'm going to give it 4, maybe even 4.5 playbills.
And I apologize to my friend Martin, but I'm going to give it 3, and that's a generous 3.
Okay.
It was a nice evening, but it wasn't anything.
No, I enjoyed it from start to finish.
We're going from that kind of small show to a different kind of small show. This is
which ironically is also influenced by the 60s.
Well, that isn't influenced
by
the 60s.
Well, I know, but I'm sorry, not influenced. It's from the 60s, but this takes music from the 60s.
Yes.
Well,
this is not music from the 60s. It's music from the 60s through the 70s. And it doesn't stop at the 60s. It goes all the way through to, you get the Beatles, you get... The
Beatles were the 60s.
Thank you, Charlie. I knew that. My point being that it's not just the 60s. It goes a little bit into the 70s as well. And the clothing, you know, okay, I'm not going to argue with you about it. What we have here is a show that started in Tokyo, and it really is, although the people are extremely talented, there is more talent on this stage than I've seen in a dozen Broadway shows. But the sense that I got about it was almost that it was kind of like karaoke, because the people who are doing the numbers are channeling the people who originally did the numbers. So they're not giving us a new take on these numbers. They're giving us the numbers as they were at the time. And I find that very strange. They work very, very hard. A lot of them have Las Vegas credits. This is a Las Vegas kind of review rather than a Broadway show. It has no real through line. There is no dialogue to speak of. It starts with the wrong song. That's the director and me coming out. It starts with the Windmills of My Mind, which I think is supposed to set up the idea that this is all going on in my mind. I'm not sure. And then there are these individual numbers where a couple of people kind of go through at the same time. There's a young couple, and there's an older woman, and there are some other characters, and they go from...
And I have no idea if they're supposed to be the same characters.
They are, only in the sense that they fall in love and they get married at one point. So they have, you know...
Okay, well, if there was a plot in all of this, I completely missed it.
I'm trying to make a plot. I'm a fabulous. I try to make the fable work. But what they do is they take the different numbers. So they start
very
with...
hard in this case.
You do. And so it starts with Windmills of My Mind, and then it does White Rabbit. Well, White Rabbit, of course, is dropping acid. So after that, anything can happen.
Yeah, so and there's one girl dressed as Alice who gets caught.
And she starts out as Alice, and she falls asleep, and then everything, all the other songs stuff. There's a surfing number. There's there's a surfing number. So you get a net. And Frankie and Annette.
I don't think there was anyone who was supposed to be Annette or Frankie.
No, but that's the period that it's from. All those beach party blanket bingo movies and whatnot, and the number Venus, which was sung by, you can tell me who sang that, right? Originally.
I have no idea, because there was the Frankie Avalon version, but that wasn't this.
That wasn't his. No,
not this Venus.
It wasn't his version. It was thinking Paul Anka or somebody like that.
I don't really know who sang this.
I don't either.
Where Have All the Flowers Gone, Moon River from Breakfast at Tiffany.
Okay, and they took what were anti-war songs and made them into ballads. Where Have All the Flowers Gone is about, of course, the youngest men going off and dying. Right. That's what that song is about, to the Vietnam War, and it's a love song in this case. It's between the two of them. The things like that, and then Blowin' in the Wind, and other anthems were given the wrong tempo, and that just. But
I like most of these songs.
Yeah.
There's some nice staging. It is an enjoyable evening.
Absolutely.
What, could it have been better? I think, considering the material that they've got, this is some good stuff here.
Yeah.
I think it could have been a lot better.
Well, but
I
here's a
agree.
small
Yes.
show that they threw money at this show.
Oh, yes.
You can see it in the costumes. You can see it in the lighting effects.
Yes.
You know, a lot of money was thrown at this show.
Certainly, it's a more elaborate show, even though it's off Broadway, than Dames at Sea. On the other hand, it didn't grab me the way Dames at Sea did, and despite the fact that I know a lot of these songs, and I
Right.
really like a lot of these songs.
You
Right?
know, it's interesting. The theater that this is playing in is what used to be called the Little Schubert, and that had such a jinx
Right.
attached to it that they have changed the name of the theater. It's now called Stage 42. Anyway, I noticed people in the audience singing along. I noticed people tapping their feet.
Right.
People had a nice time here. They certainly got their money's worth out of this show. It's just not, again, the same thing I said about Dames at Sea, but for a different reason. It's not a Broadway show.
Well, but
It's
in
a
this case,
review.
it's not on Broadway.
No, but it's okay, fair enough. But it's a review. It's not really a show. It's not when I said a Broadway show, I meant to say that it's not a book show. Is what I was trying to say.
You know, we're doing the jukebox musicals now. Admittedly, most of them are quote-unquote book musicals.
In a sense, they tie it together.
All right, so this is something that
We
they're
don't have a
trying something.
narrative here, so
No,
if you want to
there is
make
not
a narrative,
that might have made a difference.
but it's easy to follow, and you
yes.
can take people of any age to see
It's
it.
easy to follow because there's nothing really to
There's
follow.
nothing
It
to
goes from this
follow,
number.
right.
It goes from that number. Yes, they do acknowledge that there was a war going on
Yeah.
and the turbulence, and
Yeah.
it looks like they're in San Francisco at one point. So they try to cover the touch tone
The touch-
of
the
the
touchstones,
60s.
yes,
And
indeed.
like that, I saw her standing there. The theme from Batman, Wipeout, and a whole bunch of other beautiful songs. And it can be imaginative. But because this is they're politically correct, just like Dames at Sea, because not only do they have women dancing in cages, but they have men dancing in cages.
Right. I don't know why
And
you're holding
somehow
that
that's
up yet.
progress.
I don't know why you're holding that up
Okay,
yet,
well,
but in any case, are we
because
going to give it?
we're gonna
So how
move
many?
on.
What do you think?
I'm going to give this 3 playbills.
Okay, I think that's a fair estimate. I mean, 2.5 is niggling at the back of my mind, but because they threw so much money at it, I'll say 3.
Okay. All right.
Now,
This is Ripcord by
Indeed.
one of our favorite contemporary playwrights, David Lindsay Abaire, who wrote Rabbit Hole and Buddy Mears.
and one of the stars of Freddie Mears is in this.
That's right, she is. Now, here's the premise of this play. Imagine if Little Orphan Annie and Miss Hannigan were forced to share a room at an assisted living facility.
Well, imagine they were both over 70 years old. Then you could
Yes.
you might
well,
say that.
That's generally what the age you are when you're
But
in
you
assisted living.
didn't specify that they
Okay.
were not.
Well,
their own
that's why
age.
I have you.
I see. Yes, that's right. That's what
And
I
that's
do.
pretty much the premises of this play. Now, you have the leads, Abby Holland Taylor from 2.5 Men, and as you mentioned, Marilyn from Buddy Mears,
Mary
that's
Louise
Mary Louise
Burke,
Burke.
yes.
And let's see, Holland is the grumpy old cynic who wants to be left alone, and Marilyn is the chatty, sunny-side-up roommate who just loves everyone.
And
Now,
everyone loves her.
Yes. well,
And
she's-
everyone hates the other one.
With good reason. She's managed to drive out all her other
Absolutely.
roommates, but this one has decided to stay, much to Holland's or Abby's chagrin.
He loves fire trucks, ambulances too, anything with a siren. He can hear one from blocks away, and he gets his big grin and he flies to the window to see them pass by. They make him so happy.
That's creepy.
Creepy.
Well, their sirens are blaring because people are dying.
Oh, come on now.
They are! Or their homes are going up in flames, or there's a car accident, or some old man is falling down some stairs. That's what those sirens mean, people in pain.
Caleb doesn't know any of that. It's just a fire truck to him.
Well, when you've heard as many sirens as I have, they're nothing to be happy about. Is he all right? In the head, I mean, or is he a little...
What kind of question is that?
Well, I mean, if he's chasing after fire trucks, you have to wonder. My son never did that. Normal boys don't do that.
Of course they do. You're just trying to get a rise out of me.
I didn't know how Mom was going to occupy her time in here, but this little bet, way better than bingo.
I just worry about something going wrong.
Oh, he's right. You should probably have a safe word. Do you have a safe word?
I don't know what that is.
Ours is sassafras.
Colleen!
Sassafras.
Actually, it's.
Now, Abby says nothing can scare her, and Marilyn says nothing can upset her. So they make a bet. And the next thing you know, they are going through a haunted house, parachuting, and all sorts of things. We see Abby's son and daughter-in-law. We have a wonderful time just watching these gals duke it out. Imagine what Betty
Rachel
Davis
Dratch-
and Joan Crawford could have done with this.
Rachel Dratch plays their daughter, by the way,
Yes.
which is very interesting from Saturday Night Live. Yes.
From Saturday Night Live.
And many other things, but from Saturday
Yes.
Night Live.
David Hyde Pierce from Frasier.
Directed.
Last season from Good Wife, directed very, very nicely.
Nice twists and turns, which we shouldn't give away.
Nate Miller is the aide, is the much put upon aide in the nursing home. Let's see, Dowd Hedeme is the son-in-law, and it's a good play. It's not up to the level of a Funny Mears or Rabbit Hole.
But it was
or
an
Good People.
enjoyable evening.
It was an enjoyable evening.
And you like to see it's two veterans, two real, honest to goodness actors who can really pull it off,
Yes.
And you root for each of them in a different way.
Right. Well, you could be Team Marilyn or Team Abby, but you do. And
You want to be Team Abby, really.
Well, I
sometimes
kind of,
you can't help it, but yes.
I think, look, we all, it's hard not to fall in love with Marilyn, and she has this wonderful scene where she,
Don't spoil it.
well, it's a bit of a
It's
surprise.
so slight. Yeah, if you take away the surprise,
You'll be scared for a second, and then you're just going to laugh.
right. And it actually was used in another play by Martin McDonough, but we won't talk about that.
No, we won't talk about it. But we will both say, I think, we can both say that we really enjoyed.
Absolutely.
We had a fun time with
We
this.
did. We didn't see the same performance. And the night that I saw it, Holland Taylor was having some trouble with her lines. Did that happen when you were there?
No.
I think it was a specific thing. I don't know what it was, but I'm sure it hasn't happened before.
If she was, she hit it very nicely.
Yeah, no. This was. In fact, somebody else mentioned it. We were a little nervous for her. No, on the whole, it was a very good performance.
Competent performance.
Yeah. Anyway, enjoyable. 4.5. Fun.
Really, I would give it more of like a 3.5.
Oh, wow.
I did have fun.
It wasn't a
Not
great
quite that
play.
much. No,
it
it's
wasn't
not
a great play, but
it's not a great play.
I was so pleased to
But
sit back.
it's a fun play.
And be entertained by these two women and by David Hyde Pierce, who did direct it as much as
Right.
as there was to direct.
He's not in it.
No, but he I think he got everything out of it that there was to
Yes.
get. That's what I think he did.
Yes. Again, this is the playwright showing his funnier side. In some plays like Funny Mears.
Well, Rabbit Hole was very serious.
Yes, exactly. Or Funny Mears could go from one end to the other.
right.
Rabbit Hole goes totally serious. Ripcord goes totally
Both ways.
funny.
Yeah.
Again, not quite up to that level. Still very, very enjoyable.
The plot line, which never mind, we don't have to go backwards on that. It's okay.
They make a bet.
Well, the bet, yeah, but what they win is the window by the bed by the window, which is that's the big bet. But anyway, it's okay.
I think if Marilyn loses, she gets the bed, and
If Abby loses, it's the other way around.
If Abby wins, if Marilyn wins,
has
she
to
gets the
leave.
bed.
Marilyn has to leave.
She has to leave.
My dad was in one of those places, so but they could make me laugh, even though I know what those places are like.
And it's pretty soon
Took a lot.
because your father just passed
Yeah,
away.
but no, but I'm
fairly
saying
recently.
it took a lot, knowing what those places are. There was nothing to laugh about in Fool for Love, which is our final play of the evening. You're saying that way, and everybody was talking about the heat in this, and I
Really?
did not. No. The other critics, other than the two of us, were
Okay.
talking about the heat in this production, and I have to say, I didn't feel it. I didn't see it. I saw a very competent production of what should have been a very off-the-wall production. It should be a dangerous production. It's about a man and a woman. You see, a man comes into a woman's room. You don't know where they are. You don't know who they are. You don't know what that's all about. And he's chasing her, and she says, "Go away," and he says, "No," and then they hug and they kiss.
And then he'll go away, and she'll call him
And then
back.
she calls him back, and it goes on, back and forth. And there's an old man sitting in the corner. It's very Sam Shepard, very, very Sam Shepard.
Well,
And
eventually,
you find out who they are and why this is going on.
and it's a very strange situation.
It is strange, to say the least. And
say
the
the
thing
least.
is that I didn't see the heat that they were talking about. It was designed. Daniel Oken is the director. It was designed so that he chases her, and then she chases him. It's it's a traffic pattern.
He literally
in the room.
ropes her.
He does a
He's
trick
a
rope
cowboy,
thing.
so yeah.
He's a cowboy, but
This
you
is
know,
Sam Rockwell we're talking
yes,
about.
it's Sam Rockwell.
And Nina.
And Nina Arianda, whom we love, of
Who we
course.
love, yes.
But Nina Arianda has played this role before, and so you know the sexy girl in the room is a Nina Arianda character now, and so that I mean seriously, you know,
Well,
if you
Billy
go back
Dawn
to,
is still my favorite performance of hers.
but you know if you go back to the first the Venus and Furs play,
which I did not like.
I liked it better than this. See, there was heat in that
Which is
play.
not saying much.
There were two characters in that, but there was heat between them in that one.
It was
okay?
also very strange.
But it was very strange, but this one is stranger. But this one didn't bring. And then every now and then the old man explains what's going on.
Right.
But he's you know you go sort of go what when he's finished
Yes, he
explaining.
comes in and he.
Yeah. I wanted so much to like this. I adore Sam Rockwell. We like Nina Arianda very much.
Yes.
I worked with Gordon Weiss, who's the Gordon Joseph Weiss,
He's the
who's
old
the old
man.
man. He wasn't an old man when I worked with him. Gordon Joseph Weiss won a Tony for playing the puppet in that play Ghetto 25 years ago. You may have seen it.
Yeah, I did.
Yes, he was the puppet, and he won a prize for that. Okay, he's a wonderful actor, and
Look,
they
you have-
all are.
You
They're
have
all.
some, wonderful actors here. I have to tell you something. I'm not a big Sam Shepard fan. I don't understand his work half the time. I don't enjoy it. It's just too strange for me, and this is no exception. I mean, when the big revelation about these two comes in, it's just you have this ew type
Well,
feeling.
there's an ew, definitely. But
Yeah.
the ew factor was written in. But I have to be honest with you.
absolutely.
And this has nothing to do with the fact that Sam Shepard wouldn't give me a seat the other night at Cloud
No.
Nine. Nothing to do with that at all.
Because I didn't ask him for a seat, and I
That's
didn't
right.
like the
And
play
I had
either.
made up my mind before that. But seriously, I know what you mean about that. And 90% of Sam Shepard plays go that way. And Buried Child is coming this year, too. The last couple with Stephen Ray, the last couple with the dead horse on the stage and a couple of other things, I didn't even begin to understand, and those are recent plays. This one, having read it, and it reads fantastically. It reads bing, 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 bing. It reads like Hemingway. You know, it's got those short sentences that are pithy and whatnot.
We're a little low on time, so we have
Okay, well, neither one of us seem to like it very much.
No.
What would you give it?
2 playbills.
Oh, okay. That is low, and we don't usually go that low. I tend to agree with you. I know. I was taken aback that you would actually say that. I wanted to like it so much more. I wanted it to be so much more, but it wasn't. Bruce Willis was in it the first time. We're going to see him
see him in
shortly.
in Misery.
Yes, in Misery.
Well, Bruce Willis is in Misery. This play was Misery.
But anyway,
and
we'll
that
go
is our
back
show for
again.
tonight.
We'll go back again.
Yes.
When we
you
do,
go to the theater, look for Leslie and me, us too.
on the aisle.